What's up, guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of Miami. This is season 7, episode 15. And let me just say this, y'all. Gertie need to tell her parents how she feel. It's not right she holding on to all of that, okay? Stephanie, I am so over you in this plain situation. Girl, get over it, okay? I'm happy Larsa and Lisa finally have shut up about this situation. And honestly, y'all, I know everybody think Marisol did the cake, but I think it was Julia. But let's get into this video. So y'all know sometimes before we get into the review, we get a little spicy, just a little bit. And I just have a few things I want to talk to you guys about. So first up, Bravo posted this thing that was like the cast according to Marisol, and it was all the nicknames that she has given cast members except for Julia and Adriana, and that tickled me. So she calls Alexia Bro, she calls Lisa Monkey, Larsa Pips, Kiki is Keeks, Gertie is G, and what's her name, Stephanie now is called Mighty Mouse, but the collage that they made did not have Julia and Adriana. And the thing that I found funny is like Julia is doing all of this like kissing up only to be like left out of the group. And some people might say, well, that's trivial, Leah. Like, why does it matter? It does matter. If you have somebody in your group that gives everybody nicknames and they don't give you one, baby, they don't really like you. Or they might be trying to settle on a nickname, but if they've had time, bro, they don't really see it for you. You're more of like an associate. Everybody else they actually potentially like, and you just there. And I'm just like, Julia is doing all this kissing up. I didn't expect her to have a name for Adriana because it's Adriana and we know they don't like each other. But I was just like, wow. That's kind of funny. So moving on, I just want to get into a few clips from Watch What Happens Live and a clip from the after show. So a clip from the after show and a clip from Watch What Happens Live I'm going to put together because it's interesting to see the difference in time of Alexia's opinion about the things that Marisol has been saying about Todd. So on the after show, Alexia was like, she's not mad or upset with Marisol for the things that she's been saying about Todd because they're friends. But then on the after show, she was like, I'm hurt by the things that she's saying, but I understand. And it feels like maybe Alexia might be seeing Todd again because right around the time when Todd dropped that 10-minute video about suing Bravo and coming for people were saying that Alexia and Todd had not spoken to each other in like months. And now it feels like maybe she might be slowly creeping her way back in there because she says on the Watch What Happens Live clip that she still loves him. So let me play those clips for you.
As far as like the Todd thing goes, I'm never going to be mad at you because
you can get mad at me.
No, I mean, that's what real friends do. Real friends, love you.
I didn't say anything you and I had not discussed before.
So we'll be all going out together again.
It's exciting, yet scary.
Okay.
You always told me in real life what you thought. So, like,
Right.
what you said on camera was exactly what you were telling me in our conversations.
Yeah.
It wasn't something like, oh, my God, I'm shocked. Like, she told me how much she loved Todd, and now she comes on TV, and she says the opposite.
Right.
No, you've
Listen,
always been...
I mean, you've been down a long, dark, hard road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It hasn't been easy.
I was, like, overwhelmed, trying to film the show, plus, my business and, everything else that
It's a lot.
that entails. It's
heavy.
A lot.
I don't think people realize that you have Frankie with you 24 hours a day. You drive him with you everywhere. You take him to work with you. It's a lot of stress. Even though for you it's easy and Frankie's easy, but it's that. It's the salon. It's the show. You're going through a divorce. You got to handle 7, 8 other women in a chaotic situation. It's not very easy. It's not.
No,
And
it's
you
not.
have more on your plate than everybody else. I have to say that. You really do.
I agree. And, I've never liked to use that as an excuse.
Yeah, but I'm going to say it for you because you don't say it.
Thank you. No, I don't. And I never played victim or anything like that. I accepted, this is my life and I'm grateful and I love it. And by the way, if I wouldn't have had Frankie by my side, I don't know where I would be. Because he's everything. Like, now I really know that, like...
He keeps you
when things
grounded
happen.
about love. You could get very jaded and very angry.
Yes.
with life, but he reminds
He
you
reminds me
of
how
love.
blessed we are,
Yeah.
how love is beautiful,
Yeah.
how love is everything, how
Yeah.
life is beautiful. So, the fact that I have him, to me,
You're making me
he's
cry
not
now.
a burden. To me, he's just like my purpose. He's like my life. I don't know. Like, I couldn't live without him. It was a lot.
Please.
I know.
Please, man.
I know. For us, it's a lot because your brother and I, that's why.
Yeah, crying, sad. No, relax, done, no more.
Like, that's what it is. And he had that purpose. We have that for each other. But it is a responsibility. I get up in the morning and my life is a lot different from everybody else in the friend group.
I saw your eyes watering. You made
I know.
me cry.
I was trying to keep the tears in. But, obviously when I talk about my kids, it's my soft spot. But thank God for my children and, for my friends, like you.
Oh, thank you. That's
Adriana's Mojito on Twitter. Have you seen Marisol bash Todd on some of her confessionals, and did that bother you?
That's a lot. So yes and no, because I know that she's my friend and she had the best intentions, but it did hurt me because no matter what, I love Todd. So it did bother me that she said a lot of things that hurt me.
All right.
Because, she did like Todd at one point.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. It's hard when you're fighting, the person that you love,
Yes.
on TV and your friends are, saying things like that.
Right.
It definitely is given that Alexia might be still talking to Todd, or they might be talking on the low. I don't get her. I don't get why she's holding so much on to him. And we'll talk about that in the episode, but it's just like, how many times does someone have to show you that they genuinely don't care about you? Because if Todd really cared about Alexia, even if he was mad at her, he would have left this situation differently. He would have been like, hey, can we go to counseling? He wouldn't have moved out the house and immediately filed for divorce. He would have actually talked to her and tried to make her understand his feelings, and then with whatever she decided to do, he would have respectfully removed himself from her life instead of just running to the courts and then not following through with the divorce. That to me shows that the divorce was only used to force her to do something. It was an ultimatum, I'm gonna go get a divorce because you want her to act a certain way, and I don't respect that. And I just feel like Alexia was smart to stay on Bravo. I mean, does Miami get a lot of press? No, it doesn't, but it gets enough where I feel like with her doing the, the beauty bar with Frankie, and she's making money, eventually when Todd cuts everybody off, because I heard that he might still be paying for her apartment or whatever, she will probably have enough money to live off of that if she does, she do her money the correct way and not have to rely on him. So I'm all for women being self-sufficient. So that's just how I see it. The next clip I want to show you guys is of a Twitter user asking Alexia about why was she so offended by what Gertie did with the text messages, but not offended by Julia and the drink toss. So let me play that.
Sarah Mac photo. Why were you so offended by Gertie revealing text, but not about Julia throwing water on Gertie?
I was offended about Julia throwing the water at Gertie.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys didn't see that because there was a lot of footage that was not played, but we were all offended with what Julia did. It was disgusting. It was distasteful. We told her, unfortunately, you didn't get to see it, but we were offended. But that doesn't take away that I can also be offended by what Gertie did. I think the location, I like that she did that, and I probably would have done that too. I just wouldn't have picked my cancer charity event to do it.
Okay.
That's what I found distasteful.
I kind of believe Alexia, because when they did that montage after Julia did what she did, where she threw the drink, we did see a montage of Gertie sitting down with Adriana, Kiki, and Alexia. And Alexia was like, no, I invited Gertie to the shop. I apologized. I told her, I did not agree with what Julia did. So I do believe that she probably did voice to Gertie she didn't agree with it. But I don't know about them really chastising Julia, because I feel like we would have saw it. But I can also give slightly a benefit of the doubt because of, because of how we know that sometimes production will omit things. I know I didn't really watch the Love is Blind season 7 reunion, but there was a situation where they spoke to Alondria and the racism and the things of that nature that was happening online. And a lot of the castmates were like, no, we spoke up for her. They just cut it out. And they were like, no, this person said this person said that. So we know production can do that types of things. So I'm just kind of like, maybe they did say it, but I don't know. I don't know. Now, I think it's okay for Alexia to be offended with Gertie showing the text messages. I told y'all, I thought what Gertie did was it was cringy. It was. Like, you could tell that, like, she didn't plan it, but it was also like, girl, if you had to go to Chat GPT, then you maybe shouldn't have done it. You should have probably marinated on it and then proceeded, because I feel like if Gertie would have thought for a minute before she did what she did, then she probably would have still been able to give out the text messages, but it would have made more sense, because she did what she did, but it didn't land with the ladies. And the purpose of what she was doing was so that the ladies could understand her point of view, but they didn't. And Gertie even said that she rushed to Chat GPT to, like, come up with a speech. And I'm like, if you have to do that, then you shouldn't have done it at all. It's the same thing when Kenya had to take them shots before she did what she did at the hair salon with the posters. It's like, if you need liquid courage or other assistance, instead of you just being fully committed to it, then you probably shouldn't do it, in my opinion. Okay? So the last thing we're going to talk about is the reunion. So now even Andy is saying that something really goes down at the reunion that was very shocking. So let me play that clip.
Larsa will be able to continue to have their fences be mended?
I am very hopeful.
You are. What did you think of the reunion?
Which part?
Right, exactly.
I felt like there was a lot of different things going on, but I really do want to believe that a lot of us walked out of there in a good place.
Yes.
Because that's what it's supposed to be.
Yes.
But, to be determined. We'll see, because then there's social media.
Yes.
And then that kind of ruins everything.
And there was, I would call it a huge bombshell dropped, wouldn't you?
I think so, too. We, both fell off our chair.
I really hope that they are not selling us some BS. I really do. Because now we have Andy saying, like, nah, it was a lie. And then this is the second time Alexia has said something. Kiki said something. Gertie said something as well. So I'm like, y'all better not be playing in my face. Like, I'm going to be annoyed if we get to the reunion and it ain't nothing. Okay, but let's get into this review, y'all. So let's get into this episode. So it opens up and we see Julia in her braids. What is it? The braids? Yes. I said, okay, Julia. And then we see Kiki in her on one of the decks of this cruise ship. We see the rest of the women except for Lisa all go to this 80s inspired aerobics class. So, Marisol is like, I don't really like working out, but, I'm going to be hosting, aerobics. So I'm excited for all the girls to come. So we actually see the women during the 80s, except for Marisol and Larsa. We don't even get a picture of Larsa. So we see Gertie get there. Everyone was taken aback because she had on, I thought of Whitney Houston, the chopped bob kind of hair. She had on a wig and they didn't even recognize her because most of the women are used to her having the bald head. And she's like, I'm ready to have a good time. She said she came to America in 1987 and they give us a picture of Gertie at 14. She was really cute. I was like, I love the whole aesthetic with the high ponytail and the bangs. I thought she was really cute. Then we get Alexia. I said, okay, Alexia, I see why the boys was trying to get at you. She was 21, the picture that they show us of her. And she was like, at that time, I was dating a cocaine cowboy, but I didn't know he was a cocaine cowboy. Then they show us Larsa. All they show us of Larsa is a picture of John Bon Jovi and her talking about how much she liked him. Mind you, I hate this confessional that Larsa has with these gloves. It gives a reject from, what's it called, from Bridgerton. Like I said, girl, who told you this was... No. And in her face, she looks washed out. This was not it. The high ponytail look that she has with the black outfit, I think is really cute on her. This not it. Larsa look good with dark colors, okay? So Marisol doesn't show us any pictures, but she says, she used to do the 80s workout classes when she was 14. She was not 14, but was a teenager. She's like, I used to be at the back of the classroom because I didn't want nobody to see how much I was sweating. But yeah, but they show us a picture of Marisol, but it was it's not the 80s. It seems like she was at an 80s inspired party. But we've seen pictures of Marisol when she was younger, especially during the time when she had the preppy party, that episode. They showed us pictures of Marisol when she was a kid or a young adult. So I was like, okay, cool. Stephanie was like, girl, I was a toddler. And they actually show a picture of Stephanie in the pool with her dad being launched in the air like a torpedo. And then she was like, but Masood was 21 in college. I said, girl, I don't need to know that age gap. It's gross. Ew. Okay, ew. All right. So after the aerobics class is over, we see the ladies like in a huddle, and they're asking, like, Marisol ends up asking Larsa and Stephanie and what's her name and Gertie, well, how was like last night's dinner? And they were like, oh, it was good. You know, Gertie's like, it was very much a reflective dinner. They were like, did you talk about Lisa? And Larsa was like, yeah, I talked about Lisa. So then Alexia ends up saying, you know, we also talked about you and Lisa's relationship as well. And she was like, honestly, I told her, like, y'all got to get over this. She was like, it's too much going on. Like, y'all are dragging this out. And so Larsa's response to that is like, I'm ready to be over this, but Lisa's not a good responsive friend. And I said, Larsa, as much as I like you, girl, on this show, you are dragging this out. Like, you wanted Lisa to unfollow Marcus, she did. Granted, I understand the frustration and anger. I do. Like, I already told y'all, if my friend breaks up with a dude, I don't even follow any of my friends' boyfriends like that. Like, husband is a different thing. Y'all with the extra mile. But boyfriend, I'm not following you like that. So I'm just like, if they break up, I'm unfollowing. And we all know if Marcus was like some like Marcus whatever, like Marcus Houston or something, nobody, like, she wouldn't, well, no, Marcus Houston is somebody, but he a perv, so no. Y'all know what I'm saying. If Marcus was not a Jordan, they would not, like, Jody and Lisa would not be following him. That's why when Larsa called her a groupie, I was like, granted, you shouldn't be saying that because you a supreme groupie, but it is giving groupie behavior, because why are y'all following Marcus Jordan like y'all friends with him like that? Because y'all really aren't. Y'all are casual friends with that man, and you only know him by way of Larsa. But Larsa has been dragging this out. So Marisol and Alexia basically tell her, girl, y'all need to have a sit down and talk about it. Stop going back and forth trying to work over the details. If y'all really want to be friends, y'all would try to be friends. And Alexia's like, honestly, girl, like, I believe that y'all really want to be friends, so I think y'all should work it out. And so Alexia was just like, in her confessional, honestly, they both just need to say, I'm sorry I hurt you for this. I'm sorry I was an asshole about this. Because at this point, it's too much. It's too much. And she was like, when they try to go back, they start arguing and beefing with each other. So then Marisol says, I think y'all should have a conversation, but I'm worried that you guys are going to go backwards and y'all are going to get into like the details about once y'all start feeding in the details or going back to rehash the old details, y'all start beefing. So she's like, at this point, y'all should just apologize for what y'all have done to each other and just move forward. So the scene switches and we go back to Julia and her braids and Kiki on one of the decks of the cruise ship. And we start to see the rest of the ladies that were at the aerobics event filter in. Now, Stephanie is the first one to get there. Mind you, Kiki is spread Desert Eagle with her coochie to the sun. And I said, girl, why is your coochie to the sun? And she was like, she was like, you know, my coochie need vitamin D. Your coochie don't need vitamin D. Like, it's one thing if you do that and you're at your house, like, you know, you have a private area with like trees and a fence. It's another thing to be in public, just, like, coochie just out, just like, I was like, girl, what we doing? Put it away. Like, oh my gosh. And so Stephanie sits down and Kiki sits up and she ends up asking Julia, what's up with your best friend? Like, Adriana seems like upset. Like, is she okay? And Julia was like, I think she's really upset about her birthday. Like, she's sad about, you know, her birthday coming up. And they flash back to when Gertie ended up asking her the day before, like, how are you? Like, I think it's weird that we're not acknowledging your birthday is coming up. And Adriana was like, well, people treat you differently when you get older. And we know that that's true. So we then see the rest of the ladies like filter in. And the next two people coming is Adriana and Gertie. Gertie is like, hey, y'all. And Adriana sits, like, when I tell you, immediately sits down and like kills the mood. Like, I have learned, like, I only asked you 2 times if you are okay. The first time I asked you okay and you tell me, like, you don't want to talk about it, I let it go. But I let you know, hey, if you need to talk about it, I'm here to talk to you, okay? Or for you to talk to me with or whatever. The second time I ask you and you don't want to tell me, I leave it alone. Because I've had moments where I have asked people more than 2 times and they've either like disrespected me or were trying to act like I was trying to be messy, but yet you are walking around a party moping and your eyes are red and teary. Like, if you gonna cry in the car and leave. Okay, don't cry. You clearly want somebody to ask you if you're okay, and that's what it kind of feels like with Adriana. Like, you're doing this for attention. Like, girl, like, I get it. You're mad about turning 59. You're sad about it. I think that's stupid, but that is what it is. But don't kill the vibe and be all depressed when it's like, girl, you knew your birthday was coming anyway. Like, at least try to be somewhat happy or jovial on the trip. Like, she a buzzkill. Like, I would be over her. Like, I've been on trips with people who are a buzzkill, and after a while, we just started ignoring you because I paid too much money to be on this trip and worried about you. So everyone's like, hey, Adriana, she don't really say nothing. Julia is looking at her. Next, we end up seeing Marisol and Alexia get there. And everyone's like, well, how was the workout? And they were like, oh, it was a good time. So then everyone's like, so where is Larsa and Lisa? And we find out that Larsa and Lisa decided to have a conversation on another part of the cruise ship to hash out their differences. So we see Lisa get to the area first. So she orders a few drinks and like a green juice and all of that stuff. She ends up texting Larsa, being like, hey, I'm here, just waiting for you. So then someone was like, it goes back to the other ladies, and they were like, should we be worried? Like, should we be concerned that someone's going to get thrown overboard? And then Marisol says, well, Larsa floats. Are you kidding me? And I cackled because they know that booty is fake. They know that booty is fake. So everyone giggles and laughs at that. So we end up seeing Larsa get to where Lisa is, and they have a sit down. And you know, Larsa is already kind of like nitpicking because she was like, girl, why did you order so much stuff? And she was like, oh, I'm trying to detox. Lisa ends up saying that she's nervous, and Larsa's like, don't be nervous. We're just here to have a conversation. So then Lisa ends up saying, like, I don't know how we got here. She was like, basically, I don't want us to get so far away from our friendship that we can't never come back from it. And Larsa's like, I'm the same. She said, but honestly, the things that you said to me hurt me to my bone. Now, mind you, some people will say, well, Larsa, like, them accusing you of setting Marcus up with the paparazzi, with the pic and everything, like, that shouldn't hurt you to your bone. But then again, we don't know if people have accused Larsa of moving shiesty before, and that's why it bothered her, because she's like, I didn't do that. I don't believe she did it either, because again, like I have reiterated time and time again, he was doing that in the open during the Olympics. Everybody had their phones and cameras out during the Olympics. You was trying to get caught, sir, and you was doing it beside a pool eating breakfast. Like, decorum. Like, what we doing? So when she says that, they flash back to when she had a conversation with the ladies during the aerobics event, and they're like telling Larsa, don't go back. Like, y'all know y'all just need to move forward. And Marisol saying, don't get into the details, like drop the details and move forward. So then Lisa ends up saying, in her confessional, I have tried so many times to move forward with Larsa, like all around the world. She was like, and then they show, like, they talked about it in Milan. They talked about it in Miami. They talked about it in Spain. She was like, and yet it's still, here we are. So then they start talking, and Lisa starts to get emotional, where she was just kind of like, you know, I don't want you talking bad about Jody because we're a pair. No, y'all are not. See, Lisa, don't get me wrong. I know she loves her boyfriend, or maybe likes her boyfriend. I don't know. I just feel like with Lisa automatically attaching yourself to a man and saying we come as a pair, and y'all don't like y'all ain't been locked in like that for a long time, is setting yourself up for failure. But she basically was just like, I don't want you speaking negatively about him. So like I said, she gets emotional and starts kind of crying because she was like, it makes me sad that we're not friends the way we used to be. So then they hug each other, and she was like, I think Larsa ends up saying, or Lisa ends up saying, I do miss you, and I don't want to fight with you. And I think that's what Larsa says. And then I think Lisa's like saying me too. Larsa ends up saying, you know, I love you, I love your kids. And Lisa's like, I love your kids as well. And she was like, I'm sorry if I talked about your boyfriend. No, girl, you did talk about her boyfriend. You should have just said, I'm sorry that I talked badly about Jody. She was like, I want to apologize for that. And then Lisa ends up saying, you know, actually, I also want to apologize for unfollowing you as well as when I unfollowed Marcus. And Larsa's like, you unfollowed me? She was like, that's such a bratty move. She was like, girl, do you know how many pictures I have on my thing with you and me. Like, girl, if I would have known that, I would have deleted them pictures of you and me. And she was like, yeah, I know. And they laugh about it and they pretty much move on. So then while it goes back to the rest of the ladies, and I think Stephanie was like, I just got a text from Larsa that the girls have, moved on and everybody cheers. So then Marisol lets them know. Marisol basically lets the ladies know that they carved out some time for a spa date. So everyone is excited, as well as she tells them, make sure everyone wears red before tonight's dinner because it's Scarlet night. So while everyone is really excited, Kiki ends up saying, now that we know that Lisa and Larsa are in a good place, what about you and Stephanie, Alexia? And Alexia basically says she feels like she gets blamed for everything. And she was like, because Marisol was the one that was adamant about not going, yet Stephanie let her off the hook. And Stephanie was like, I did not let her off the hook. But then when they flash back to when they were in Seville, the argument really was between Stephanie and Alexia. Marisol kind of got in at the end when Stephanie kept referring to them as twins, but you have Alexia telling Stephanie, like, girl, stop looking at me, look at both of us. Like, it was both of us that didn't show up. And then Stephanie being like, I can't look at twins when y'all not standing in front of me, like, y'all, my eyes can't go that way, And so Stephanie's in her confessional saying that she thinks Alexia and her butt heads because they're alphas, and she was like, little things between them escalate quickly. Mind you, I wish people would stop calling themselves alphas and betas and things of that nature. Like, when it comes to like literature, because I know that there's like an omega verse and stuff, like, so that I get, like, literature based stuff, but like when people try to use it as to describe their characteristics or how they are as a person, it doesn't track with me, especially when you find out that the whole coin term, because I think it became something in like 1947, that was a debunked study. It was basically a pack of wolves, and they were in captivity, and there was an alpha in captivity, but in real life there are no alphas. There might be a male that breeds the most in the pack, but that doesn't make him the definitive leader of the pack. Like, in certain animal species, there are like social like hierarchies and things of that nature. But just because you are the one that breeds the most doesn't mean that you lead the group either. So I just wish people would stop saying that, because like the actual study was discredited once they realized that you could not replicate. And that's the other thing. If you don't understand the scientific method, if you can't replicate it, or people can't like coin more information off your study by replicating the study, then it's not a good study, and it's normally discarded and looked at as like pseudoscience. And so they realized that the whole alpha male thing only happens really in captivity, and not all the time either. It could have just been that specific pack that the person was studying. So I just always get annoyed when I hear people saying, I'm an alpha male, I'm an alpha female, and I'm like, you sound dumb. You're basically saying that you're only an alpha because you are in captivity. Yeah, no, it's stupid. So basically, they decide that they want to have a conversation, Stephanie and Alexia, but they don't want to have it with everybody around. Kiki basically says that every time somebody makes up, she'll remove a piece of clothing. Julia said, girl, then you're going to be naked pretty soon. So, Marisol ends up telling Kiki, girl, I'm tired of seeing your tits. Like, I'm tired. And she was like, but my tits are beautiful. She was like, yeah, your tits are beautiful. I'm tired of seeing your tits. Why don't you show me your dick? And I giggled. I will say, Kiki do be sexing it up a bit much. I feel like every girl group has like a friend that is like very sexual in nature. Like, you might see their titties, they might be very comfortable around you naked, or like, they might be always wanting to show you. Like I have a friend like that, but it's like time and place. And sometimes it does get annoying to constantly, like, you want to show everybody your titties. It's like, girl, no, I'm tired of your titties. Okay, I'm tired of the titties. So I don't left because they were all just sitting around, and then they decided that they want to get strippers and they want to get Adriana a cake. And I think it was Julia's idea. She was like, well, we should still celebrate her birthday. Gertie was like, I agree with that. And Gertie was like, she may not want this. She says this in her confessional, but she was like, this is probably what she needs. So they call over one of the staff hands and they ask her, can y'all get us dancers and can you get us a cake? And they were like, yeah, we got you. So it's time for all the girls to go to the spa. The place of the name, I think it's called the Redeemer or something like that. I don't know. all excited. The space was nice. They had like a cold plunge. They also had like a hot bath and everything. They had a mud room. Kiki's outfit was cute and everything. You know, Marisol was like, if you want to get like a drink, there's another drink you can get that's similar to like I think she saw like a mimosa or something like that, called like a Harvey Werbanger. And like everyone was struggling to say it, but then Kiki got it right. Mary comes in and pulls up Kiki's dress. She's like, oh my gosh. And like, it's a lot of sexual tension going around. Now, Kiki to me was doing a little bit too much when they were in the spa. She jumped into like the hot bath, which was 100 degrees. Then she jumped to the cold bath, which was 50 degrees. And I was like, Kiki, I don't think you should be doing that to your body. Like moving from hot temperatures to cold temperatures, I really do feel what would possibly put your body in shock. So I was like, chill out. Then she ran to the mud room. And I was like, I guess she said she gonna take in all of what the cruise has to offer. Like I still would have did everything, but like in like, you know, in its time. And then you have Stephanie being like, this is supposed to be zen, but I'm not feeling zen with her running around everywhere. And I didn't blame her, okay? So then we see Larsa and Lisa walk in and they're holding hands and everyone's like, oh my gosh, yes. Marisol ends up hugging Larsa saying, don't you feel like a weight has been lifted off your back? And she's like, yes. Then we end up seeing like people getting like foot massages and things of that nature. You have Julia double fisting where she's massaging Larsa's feet and Marisol's feet at the same time. And I was like, girl, this gives such like grunt behavior. Like why are you massaging her feet when there's actual people there getting paid to be like masseuse? Like, and she's like, you know, I just feel so honored to touch your delicate feet. She was like, these are the most famous feet in America. Because, you know, Larsa sell feet pics. Mind you, I might want to get into the feet pic selling game. Because, girl, them girls is racking up men and women. But I was just like, girl, Julia's such a, like... she's such a loser. So then Kiki is like, in her confessional, Julia is talented to be able to be like double fisting like that. Okay. So then we get this scene of Adriana. Like I said, we end up seeing Gertie and Adriana off to the side and they're getting massages and they start talking. Gertie talks about how like she really needed this to relax, you know, with everything going on with the cancer and going to couples therapy. And she was like, the therapist actually told her like, hey, you should do individual therapy. And she was just like, you know, I kind of don't want to do it, but with the things that I have experienced while I was in Haiti, even coming to this country, I do have a lot of trauma. And so they flash back to when Gertie and Russell were at couples therapy, and Gertie was, you know, you could tell like she didn't want Russell to talk about like her trauma, but he was like, she has a lot of trauma dealt with like dealing with her past. And he was like, a lot of traumatic events have happened with her that she really doesn't talk about. And Gertie says in her confessional where she was like, she don't really want to go. She don't really want to deal with it, but she was just like, she knows she needs to, and so she can move on with her life. And so Adriana basically tells her, she was like, don't be confrontational about it. Like, go into it with an open mind. Like, yes, it's going to be hard, but like, know that you're going to feel better coming out of it. Like, stop trying to like avoid it because you need to do it. And so Gertie is like, yeah, I know I need to do it. I just need to get this show on the road and move forward. So we then get this scene of Stephanie and, what's her name? Alexia in the mud room. And so they start having a conversation. And here's my thing. I don't understand what Stephanie wants from this situation. Like, I feel like she just wants to be mad at Marisol, or because I feel like my thought still stands that like, girl, you thought you could get Alexia off her square and you couldn't. And now you're trying to get Marisol because like she's a step down from Alexia. But also you really want to be friends with Alexia at the same time, because Stephanie is trying to rewrite history with the Seville trip. Because Alexia ends up saying that like, you know, you really hurt me. And she was like, I wasn't trying to hurt you, but Stephanie, you really hurt me with the way that you came at me. And so Stephanie ends up saying, here's my point of view. I thought after, you know, what happened when I left the restaurant and I thought only Larsa was going to follow me, then you and Marisol followed me. And I felt like, oh my God, they came with me, like, and I shared with you guys, and I felt like you guys were my safe space. So it meant a lot to me. But she said, but then when I get on the bus, when we're supposed to be going to the plane, Julia decides to tell me that you guys said I had too many rules, that I was gonna leave you stranded, and that I'm bossy. And then Alexia is like, well, yeah, we think you're bossy. And Stephanie is like, oh. Like, for real? And she was like, yeah. She said, honest. And so then Alexia says, honestly, it was more Marisol than anything. She said Marisol was also a little irritated at the fact that you went and had lunch with Adriana. So Stephanie is like, so all of a sudden now it's a problem that I'm cool with Adriana. Like, it's not really about the plane. But I'm like, Marisol has told you her issue. I was like, when it comes to the plane. So did Alexia. And I think the Adriana piece is just something after the fact, because I definitely think they would have got on the plane before you start giving out them rules, Stephanie. And so she was just like, she was like, I kind of feel kind of crazy that y'all are bothered by that, but that's unfortunate. You know what I'm saying? So basically she was like, what's the problem with me having friends with other people? She was like, there really isn't a problem, but she was like, I'm just letting you know, me and Marisol are two different people. She was like, I'm more of the mouth person. Like, I have a bigger mouth. Marisol is not someone that really likes confrontation. So in the confessional, we end up having Alexia say that, I tell the truth. That's just what I do. I tell the truth, and I might tell other people's truth. So then it goes back to the other ladies, still getting their treatments, and Marisol saying that she's a little nervous that they are talking in a soundproof room and we don't know if they're yelling at each other or not. And so she was like, I told Marisol, Stephanie, that like, hey, we should go. But then she decided that like she didn't really want to go, so I decided to stay. So Stephanie's like, I'm glad I'm having this conversation with you, because I feel like, she made it seem like it was more like you than her, or basically that like it was something else. And I feel like Stephanie just wants to have a reason to be mad. Like, I get it, her feelings were hurt that they didn't go on the plane. But my thing about it is you kept trying to make it seem like the plane trip was for Julia, but really it was for you to flex and, buddy up to Marisol and Alexia. Marisol has told you that, hey, yeah, I told her I didn't want to go and I wasn't going to go, but then I told her to come with me. I told Alexia to come stay with me. Like, I don't get the issue. And like, don't get me wrong, like I said in my last review, Marisol is a demon. We know, like, people have said horrible things that Marisol has done and how she moves outside of the show. In her real life. But when it comes to this, she hasn't done anything sneaky, if you ask me. Other than, like, she told you what it was. I didn't want to get on the plane. You had too many rules. You did tell people that you were going to leave them stranded. And it's weird that Stephanie is now trying to act like Julia out of the blue was like, oh, they didn't want to go because you're bossy. When you asked her in that car, in the Sprinter, why did the ladies not come? So Stephanie is talking about, like, now she understands that, like, it was more Marisol than Alexia. So while they're sitting there and talking, she was like, sometimes I feel like even with my sisters, as much as I love them, they don't realize how much that they have hurt me, whether it's intentional or not. And she was just like, and she was like, sometimes I feel like maybe you don't know that you've hurt me, and that's why I'm voicing my opinion. So then Alexia lets us know she has a sister. Stephanie is gagged. I'm gagged. Okay. This makes me feel like when Giselle let us know she had a sister. I said, when did Giselle get a sister? Like, what? And in the after show, Alexia basically says her and her sister are like total opposites. I think her sister is like married to a chiropractor. She also has very young children, and her sister doesn't really like the fact that she's on reality TV. But they have, like Alexia says, they have still maintained like speaking to each other. So Alexia basically says that her and her sister haven't spoken in almost like 2 years, but she texted her out of the blue when she found out that Todd filed for a divorce to check up on her. And she said, it's been 2 years and they stopped talking after their mom died. And Alexia basically says that her mom was basically like the glue. And she also says, she just wants her sister to like accept her as who she is. And she was like, ever since, like I said, their mom passed away, they just never been really on the same page. But she was optimistic at the fact and happy that her sister actually reached out to her to make sure that she was okay after Todd filed for a divorce. And so they hug each other, and Stephanie was like, wow, we have more in common than I thought we did. She was like, I can be the sister that you don't talk to, and you can be the sisters that I don't talk to. But Alexia kind of made a face like where she was like, girl, I just told you I talked to my sister. But okay. Okay. And the scene pretty much so it is time for the Scarlet dinner. We see all the girls dressed in red. Lisa was actually on time. This is like the third time she's been on time. Okay, we see you, Lisa. You really might be turning over a new leaf. So basically, she says now she starts setting timers. She actually timed how long it took her to like do her hair and get her hair done because she has a hairdresser, her makeup, and pick out an outfit. And what it boils down to that it basically takes her 3 hours to get ready because she talks about like, cleaning off her jewelry. And I thought it tickled me when the producer was like, wow, progress in the confessional. And I said, oh, they were tired of Lisa. I feel like the only reason why the women have been harping so much on Lisa being late, even though they do seem very annoyed by it, it's because of production. I think Lisa showing up 2 hours late to film, and that might have been a common occurrence with her, pissed them off so bad that they told her, girl, y'all get in her ass about being late all the time. Because him saying, wow, progress. It's like, it was condescending, but actually like, oh, I'm actually impressed with you. So we see the rest of the ladies come. Now Gertie comes, and I do like her bunny, like lace bunny ears hat thing, but I was tickled when Larsa said, why does Gertie look like she going to a swingers party in Fort Lauderdale? And I cackled because I was like, she really does. She really does. So while they're sitting there, Kiki ends up asking the ladies, when's the last time you got laid? And so they all start talking. Gertie was like 2 days ago. She married, happily married, okay, with my man. So then Alexia says probably Wednesday. And so Lisa was like, so you had a booty call? And Alexia's like, no, it wasn't a booty call. He's my husband. And Julia was like, I guess our, efforts to get her to stop thinking about Todd was not effective because 2 days ago you had sex with him. Like, really, girl? Really? And so then Lisa's like, my bad, girl. I was just joking. I love you. I was just joking. And, I think Alexia's like, I took it as a joke. I said, no, you didn't, Alexia. She was like, it's Lisa, it's hi, hee, hee, but I'm sensitive. And so then, what's it called? Stephanie ends up saying, like, girl, if that was me and I said that, you would have called me an asshole. Someone would have said Mighty Mouse is an asshole. And they all laugh about it. So then, what's her name? Marisol gets up and she thanks everybody for having like a successful trip. You was like, everyone got along. There wasn't really any fighting. She was like, thank y'all for just coming and being on your best behavior. So then you have Stephanie in her confessional basically saying that Marisol is two-faced because Marisol ends up saying, welcome to the group, Mighty Mouse, and like cheersing her. And she's like, now she's looking at Marisol a different way. So then Adriana gets there and she's in a downer mood again. So then they all start throwing napkins at her, like, girl, smile, like somebody do something. So then they bring her cake, like someone brings the cake. Actually, it was kind of like a cute cake. It was red. It had her name in gold, and then it had a fondant like microphone. And so Julia now wants to be cool with Adriana and like rubbing on her shoulders like, happy birthday. And then when they bring the cake, it has a math equation on there, like from algebra. And it's 32 times 2 minus 5, and that equals 59. And everyone's like, girl. And so Gertie's in her confessional like saying like, y'all know she don't like people to know her age. Like, why would y'all put that on there? And then she was like, who would put this numerical system on here? Then you have Lisa being like, I feel like y'all are putting salt on the flame. And someone's like, salt in a wound. That's what you mean. She was like, yeah, like, why are they doing that? And so Adriana actually like takes her finger and like digs out the math equation, and you hear Larsa being like, Adriana. She's like, and then she flicks them off. And everyone, so here's the thing. Everyone thinks that it's Marisol, but I actually think Julia did it because Alexia and Marisol were like shocked. Like, we're like Alexia was like, even Lisa's mouth was open, and then Marisol was like, oh my gosh. And I really think, I truly think it was Julia, because Julia was the one that was like, let's get a cake. after she was like, let's get dancers. And I think Marisol was like, oh yeah, a cake would be really cool. And I feel like she did it. I really do. I don't, like, I'm going to be surprised if it's Marisol, because that's the thing. I wouldn't put it past Marisol, and I wouldn't be that mad at her, because Adriana called her an old whore, said she had wrinkly knees, so that's just get back. But I don't feel like it's her. I don't feel like it's her. I really feel like Julia did it. So then we have dancers pulling up, and Adriana says in her confessional, she said, I don't know whoever made this cake, because I hate this cake, but I do appreciate that the women put effort into celebrating my birthday. And Julia is all up in Adriana's face, and I wish she would have gotten out that lady's face. So now it's time for the Scarlet party. And like, it looked like a fun time. Everybody dancing on the stage and everything. Steph says in her confessional that, like, you know, I'm tired of being nautical Steph. I'm ready to get back to normal Steph. So they have a good time. Everybody turns up. So now we get back to Miami. We see all the girls with their families and things of that nature. There was this cute scene with Kiki and her daughter Summer, where Kiki was trying to call her son Shamar, but he wasn't picking up. And Summer was like, he's probably kissing a girl. And Kiki was like, kissing a girl? And she was like, yeah. Then we see Gertie and Russell. They're on their way to therapy. But really, Russell is dropping off Gertie to her solo session. And she is not very happy. Like, she's trying to, like, you know, be okay with it. Because he's like, are you ready? And she was like, you know, I don't really want to deal with my trauma, but here I am. They kiss each other in the car, and she goes inside. So she sits down with the therapist, and they start talking. And honestly, like I said in the intro, Gertie needs to tell her parents how they make her feel. Like, it's not fair that she's walking around with all this trauma. And a lot of people say that when you hold in your emotions, it turns into illnesses. And I do believe that. When people are always angry, I feel like that's how you get, like, tumors or a heart attack, or even give yourself cancer. It's like, or maybe even an autoimmune disease, which I think that is what cancer is in the category of. But yeah, I just was like, when listening to her story, I got frustrated for her. So basically, she talks about how, like, she suppressed a lot of her emotions. Like, you know, and she said the past couple of weeks has been, like, pretty difficult for her. And she, you know, she said, my husband recognizes that I have a lot of trauma. And she was like, I didn't even recognize it until he started pointing things out to me. And so the therapist ends up asking her, so how's your sleeping? Are you eating well? And she's like, you know, I eat, girl. And she was like, my sleeping is okay. But she was like, you know, I just beat cancer. I'm 1 year cancer free, you know, girl power and all this stuff. But she was like, I still have to, like, look in the mirror and look at all these different changes in my body. And she was like, and I'm starting to realize I have a lot more resentment built up than I thought I did when it comes to this situation with cancer, and as well as my parents and how I was brought over here. She was like, you know, like, I didn't realize I suppressed so much emotions. She talks about how when she got over here, I think she was like 9 years old. She was like, my parents sent me and my brother over here by ourselves. They, like, sent us to people that we had never met. They kept us in the house. She was like, we didn't speak the language because they came from France. She was like, we were waiting for our papers so I could go to school. And she pretty much said, I was in that house for 3 months, and she was like, I can count how many times I left the house. And she was like, it felt like prison. Like, I felt like I was in a prison. And she starts to get really worked up. And, like, the therapist is like, breathe, like, helps her breathe. And you can tell, like, it really is something that, like, still bothers her, especially with her having her own kids. And she was like, you know, I came to this country, like, Gertie's not even, like, my first name. It's my middle name. And she was like, you know, my real name is Elisheba. And I was like, that's a pretty name. And she was like, you know, the kids would make fun of me. They would like Alicia, like they would act like they couldn't pronounce it. And I hate that for her. I really do. Because I hate when people get my name wrong. Not as much, but like I remember being in like high school, like I would be called Laya, or I'd be called Lee, or I'd be called Leia. Like sometimes my nickname would be Princess Leia for some teachers that really like me. And I'd be like, I don't like that y'all call me that. But I let it go sometimes, especially my Spanish teachers, because they were like, based off of the way that my name is spelled, that's how it would be pronounced in Spanish. So I didn't mind when they would do that. Like one of my teachers, shout out to Mr. Del Cid, he would call me Princess Leia. But basically, like, people would always like fudge up my name. All right. And so I understand being frustrated with that, but I wish she would have just force people to say her name correctly, because Elisheba is a beautiful name, and it's a name that people can pronounce. Like, I have a friend by the name of Elise, and I have another friend by the name of Leisha, but we call her Lise. It's like, you should force people to say your name correctly. You should. I know I can get people's names wrong all the time, but I don't mind when people correct me and tell me like, oh no, can you say my name this way? Case in point, there was this one boy I went to school with. I called him a different name. I'm blanking on the name that I called him. And everyone would be like, Leah, who are you talking about? Like, whenever I would reference him, and I'd be like, oh, this person. They're like, Leah, that's not his name. And I'm like, well, no, it is his name, because when I call it, like, he answers to it when I say his name. And they're like, no, it's not. So then I remember one of my friends called him over to our table when we were, and this is in college, by the way, and we were like studying. And I was like, and we were in the library. I remember this. We were in the library, and I was like, is your name not this? And he was like, no. And I was like, I was like, bro, why didn't you tell me? And he was like, oh, I know you don't mean it in a bad. I was like, no, like, I will call you by your name. Like, I was like, you should have corrected me. If that's what you like, if that's what you want to be called, like, you should have corrected me. Like, you should always correct people, and let's not act like people can't say other people's names. Like, once you hear it multiple times, eventually you'll start saying the name correctly. Like, I couldn't say Masood's name correct until I heard it like 4 or 5 times. But it's like, once I heard it, I was like, okay, that's what the name. So I feel bad that she felt like she had to pick Gertie. And she talks about how, you know, like, now it's the name that I use, like, you know, Gertifying things is a part of my brand. But I think that sucks that she was forced to do that, you know? So then the therapist talks about, like, that bullying, you know, that situation of people purposely saying your name wrong, making fun of the way you speak and all of that stuff, like, that does impact you on how you show up in the world. And Gertie was like, yeah, I didn't realize that much. She was like, there was a situation, because the therapist ends up saying, like, how does this trauma show up for you now? She was like, this situation happened, and it brought me back to as a child when I felt bullied and abandoned and like isolated. And they're talking about when Julia threw the drink on Gertie and things of that nature. And she was just like, I didn't feel like I could show emotions. Basically, she was like, it took me back to that place of trauma. And then she also brings up her kids, where she was like, my child is 11 and I could never think about sending him away to people that I don't know and never come and like see him or come and get him and things of that nature. She was like, it was very like scary. She also talks about how like she's afraid to talk to her parents because she's afraid of how much resentment she does have. But I just feel like, girl, let it out. like Gertie, you beat cancer. You're 47 years old. You got a good husband. Your kids seem to be really cool kids. Like, y'all have a great relationship. Girl, unleash. Like, you should not be walking around with all of this anger and sadness because of a decision that your parents made for you. And a decision, I might ask you, in the long run, you could say was better for you, but the way they went about it was wrong. Like, to send your children away to people they don't know is terrifying. And then you probably are thinking in your head, what did I do to get thrown away in this way? And she even says something to the effect of that. So yeah, girl, I'd tell my parents about themselves real quick if I was her. So the next thing we get is Frankie and Alexia going to Marisol and Steve's place. So they're having dinner and, you know, sitting down having a nice little dinner. The pasta looked really good. The sauce looked really good. Marisol is doing too much for Frankie. Like, she's kind of all up in the kitchen, like, what do y'all want? And Frankie is like, are you drunk? Like, he's like, Marisol, a little bit drunk. You up here, take it down here. Okay, you're doing a lot, ma'am. So they sit down at the kitchen table or the dining room table. Marisol does not have any food on her plate. She's talking about she done ate some vegan cheese and, you know, she full right now. I said, Marisol, it's giving ED and I'm concerned. I'm very much concerned. You know, we know you love to drink. Girl, you got to eat. I don't know. I was like, you couldn't put no salad on the table? Like, not on the table, but on your plate. Like, what's going on, ma'am? So they're eating and talking, and pretty much Marisol's just happy that the cruise went well. She was like, it's been such a good time. And she's just happy about that. So they're sitting at the table, and next thing you know, I think Steve ends up asking Frankie, how's your brother? How's Peter? And Frankie's like, oh, Peter's good. Peter's fine. Like, everything's all good with him. And he's like, okay, that's great. That's great that everything's good with him. And so then Marisol ends up asking Alexia, well, have you talked to Peter? like, have you talked about Peter about you and him, basically Todd, you and Todd moving in a good direction? And Alexia was like, no, I really haven't talked about that because things have been moving quickly between me and Todd. But she was just like, you know, we haven't talked, but Peter normally like doesn't really get into, like, he knows that we're talking, but he doesn't know where we're at in the relationship. So Marisol's like, okay, like he's aware of it. And she's like, yeah. And so Alexia was like, you know, Peter's real reserved. Like, he don't really be getting into that. He doesn't really have an opinion about Todd like that. And then Marisol was like, well, you know, it's not good that he keeps to himself all the time. Like, we have to make sure he's okay. And so then Alexia ends up saying, well, you know, here soon we'll eventually be together. And Marisol looks at Steve and she starts to hit Steve. And Steve's like, ow, Marisol. And she's like, did you hear what she just said? And then you have Frankie being like, Marisol. Frankie was so over Marisol. And she was like, he even pointed at her like, stop hitting Steve. Frankie was so tired of her. And she was like, you know, this is a little exciting, but also scary because, like, you know, you're in a good place with Todd, but me on the other lines, not so much. Like, that feeling you get from the waist down when y'all having sex, I don't have that feeling, girl. And so she ends up saying, you know, and they flash back to when Marisol basically was telling Steve that Alexia wasn't a good part, like she wasn't her best self when she was with Todd because he would pick at her and make her feel less than. And so Alexia says she has moved on quickly from the hurt in that relationship, which I don't believe. But Marisol basically says, you know what? I'm going to just let you do what you do. Hopefully I don't end up swimming with the fishes. Okay? Because, girl, and you can tell that Alexia didn't like that, but while they're talking, Todd ends up texting her. And Alexia is like, oh my God, y'all, he texted me. And Marisol is like, girl, he got listening devices here. This is too much. This is too much. So the last scene we have is of Stephanie at Shoma Bazaar, her restaurant, and they're trying to get ready for Christmas and how she wants to have the restaurant set up for all the ladies. We find out that Adriana is going to be the talent. She's going to sing that night. So she comes to look at the play. She's like trying to map out like how she's going to set up her 10-person band and the piano and all of that stuff. And she's excited. She's like, you know, I've been really working hard writing my music, working on my piano skills. She was like, the band that I'm using, they work with like Shakira, Emilio Estefan, and I think they said one other person, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but she was just like, you know, I'm really excited. So she was just like, I know it's going to be a fun time. Stephanie ends up saying, I know you're going to kill it. It's going to be a good time. So then they end up sitting down in this one area. And Stephanie says, you know, you seem so happy right now. And she was like, you know, I am. We also find out that Adriana is curating like a museum showing for this British artist during Art Basel. And so she's just like, yeah. And Adriana basically says like, you know, I'm in a better place because I am like a creative person. And she's just like, you know, when there's a lot of fighting going on, I feel some type of way, like I get down. Also, my boyfriend has been away for 6 weeks. Girl, we do not believe that you and Amari are in a relationship, girl. 6 weeks? I don't believe it. I don't believe it, Adriana. I don't believe it. So while they're sitting there, next thing you know, they start talking about Marisol and Alexia. And so Stephanie says, you know, I talked to Alexia and her and I are in a better place, but she lets me know that Marisol was really upset that me and you hit it off very well. So they flash back to that situation. And Adriana says that's very immature. But I have to call Adriana a little bit to the carpet because you also have feel some type of way about Julia being friends with them. I don't think Adriana is wrong for feeling some type of way that Julia wants to be friends with Marisol and Alexia and kind of has discarded her. Not even kind of has discarded her. But it's like you can't call that immature when... Like, and that's why it's hard sometimes when you watch these shows where somebody will be like, oh, she's immature, but you also are exhibiting the same behavior. So it's like calling the pot kettle black. Like, girl, you only saying it's immature because it's Marisol and it's something against you. Let's call a spade a spade. So she ends up saying like, this so high school and so insecure. So then basically Stephanie says, you know, Marisol is the one behind all of this. She's really just the mouthpiece. And so Adriana is happy because she's the one that has always said that Marisol is the puppet master. She just needs puppets, and Alexia is the puppet. So they flash back to when they were all accusing Adriana, doctor, of being married, and us finding out that really it was Marisol that found that information about the guy being married. And so she's like, she's happy that Stephanie can see through the bullshit, and she feels like she got an ally now. And so then Adriana basically says that Marisol is someone who worked in PR for a long time, and she uses her influence to influence people, and that's how she uses her knowledge. And Stephanie says that's such a horrible way to use your knowledge. But she says, you know what? You know, I was mad about the plane, about them not going, and then, you know, that big announcement about Julia and all this stuff. But honestly, at this point, I have a message for her. If you gonna come for me, you better hit your mark. You better hit your bullseye. Because when I come for you, I don't miss. But I definitely feel like she's going to miss. She's going to miss. Because I feel like Stephanie wants a problem. Like, why are you so harping? Like, why are we harping on this plane, ma'am? And all that it boils down to me is that you're mad that that plane didn't get you the access that you thought it was going to get you. Because Marisol has told you why she didn't want to get on the plane. She said your rules were too much. And on top of that, that she just wanted a time away from the girls. She said she was the one that was adamant about, you know, leaving, like not going to Marbella. She's told you everything up front. I don't get it. I feel like Stephanie just wants to be mad, and she doesn't want to take accountability for the fact that she curated that environment. You were the one that gave them rules. You were the one that said that you were going to leave them stranded if they started acting funny. You basically implied that you would make them drive 2 hours, basically 3 hours back to Seville from Marbella. And it's like, you don't want to take accountability for that. And I wonder how the rest of the ladies are going to feel now that they know that she did, in fact, say that she would leave them stranded. Because I'm like, Stephanie, come on now. But yeah, that's it. That's all. I don't think Stephanie going to get the reaction out of Marisol that she thinks she going to give. But it's going to be interesting. But as always, remember to be bravely authentic. Definitely hop down in the comments below and subscribe and like the video. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.